The thing about being a commercial cleaner is that people look right through you. I'm Dean Carter, 38 years old, and I've been mopping floors and emptying trash cans for 15 years. Most folks see the uniform and assume I'm nobody worth noticing. They're wrong about that, but I've learned to use their blindness to my advantage. My wife Serena used to think it was charming that I noticed everything. You see people for who they really are, she'd say, curled up against me on our secondhand couch. That was back when we were broke college kids, and my steady paycheck from cleaning the university buildings kept us fed. Funny how perspective changes when you start wanting things you can't afford. Dean, we need to talk. Serena's voice cut through my morning coffee ritual like a rusty blade. She stood in our kitchen doorway, arms crossed, wearing the silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one that cost me 2 weeks of overtime. And sure, babe, what's on your mind? I kept my tone light, but something in her posture set off alarm bells. After 12 years of marriage, you learn to read the signs. I'm going to Mandy's wedding next weekend. She paused, studying my face. Alone. My coffee mug stopped halfway to my lips. Alone. Since when do married couples go to weddings alone? Since one of them works as a janitor, and the other one has standards. The words hit like a slap. Serena's voice was cold, clinical, like she was discussing the weather. I set down my mug carefully, buying time to process what I'd just heard. Standards? What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm tired of being embarrassed. Do you know what it's like when people ask what my husband does for a living? Oh, he cleans toilets for minimum wage. It's humiliating. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. My minimum wage job paid $45,000 a year, plus benefits and overtime. More than enough to cover our mortgage, her car payment, and the creative writing classes she'd been taking online for 3 years without finishing a single story. I make decent money, Serena. We're comfortable. Now, comfortable isn't enough anymore. She turned away, staring out the window at our neighbor's BMW. Mandy's marrying a real estate developer. He's successful, important. He drives a Tesla and owns 3 houses, and I drive a 10-year-old Honda and own 1 house, the one we live in, the one my paycheck pays for. She whirled around, eyes flashing. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You have no ambition, no drive. You're content to be nobody for the rest of your life. And summed Club. The accusations stung because part of me wondered if she was right. I'd been cleaning the same buildings for over a decade. I knew every stain pattern in the marble lobby of the downtown medical center, every squeaky wheel on every cart in the office complex on 5th Street. Maybe I had gotten too comfortable. So what are you saying? You want me to find a different job? At summed Club. Serena laughed, but there was no humor in it. It's too late for that. We're too old to start over. I'm just saying I need some space to figure things out. Space, I repeated the word like it was foreign. How much space? I'm staying at my sister's place for a while. After the wedding, maybe permanently. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of our refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. 12 years of marriage, and it was ending over a job title and a Tesla. This is about more than the wedding, isn't it? Serena's face softened slightly, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the woman I'd married. I love you, Dean, but I'm not in love with you anymore. I haven't been for a long time. I wanted to argue, to fight for us. But the look in her eyes told me it was already over. Had been over for months, maybe years. I'd been too busy working and trying to make her happy to notice when she'd stopped trying to make me happy in return. Okay. The word came out smaller than I intended. When do you want me to move out? Actually, she said, not meeting my eyes. I think it would be better if you stayed here, for now. I'll get my things this week. After she left for her sister's house that morning, I sat alone in our kitchen, surrounded by the silence of a life falling apart. The coffee had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. Waste not, want not. My mother's voice echoing from childhood. I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years, and spent the day walking through our house, seeing it with new eyes. The family photos on the mantel where Serena's smile had grown more forced over the years. The stack of her unfinished manuscripts on the desk in our spare bedroom, each one abandoned after a few chapters. The expensive skincare products cluttering our bathroom counter, purchased with my overtime money. By evening, I'd made my decision. If Serena wanted space, I'd give it to her. But I wasn't going to disappear quietly. The Riverside Country Club buzzed with the kind of nervous energy that comes with open bars and family drama. I stood in the parking lot, adjusting my tie and watching through the floor-to-ceiling windows as Mandy's reception got underway. The bride looked radiant in her $5,000 dress, dancing with her real estate developer husband while guests mingled around tables decorated with flowers that probably cost more than my monthly salary. I hadn't been invited, of course. According to Serena, I was dead. Heart attack. Very sudden. Very tragic. She'd been playing the grieving widow for the past week, accepting condolences and sympathy from family members who barely knew I existed. My friend Oscar had thought I was crazy when I told him my plan. Just let it go, man. She wants out. Let her go. But Oscar didn't understand. This wasn't about winning Serena back. This was about dignity. I walked through the country club's main entrance like I owned the place. The key to blending in anywhere is confidence. People see what they expect to see, and a man in a good suit walking with purpose belongs wherever he says he belongs. The reception was in full swing. I spotted Serena immediately, holding court at a table near the dance floor. She wore a black dress that I'd never seen before, probably purchased specifically for her role as the tragic widow. Her sister Mandy's friends surrounded her, offering tissues and wine while she dabbed at her eyes with practiced precision. It was so sudden, Serena was saying as I approached from behind. One minute he was fine, the next. She let her voice trail off dramatically. I'm so sorry for your loss, said a woman I didn't recognize. How are you holding up? Some days are harder than others, but I know Dean would want me to move on, to find happiness again. Serena's voice cracked with emotion that would have been convincing if I hadn't known better. That's very brave of you, another woman chimed in. It takes real strength to what? I asked, stepping into their circle. To move on so quickly. The table went dead silent. Serena's face drained of color as she turned to see me standing behind her chair. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Dean? Mandy's voice carried across the reception hall. What are you doing here? The music seemed to fade as conversations stopped and heads turned in our direction. I could feel dozens of eyes on me, but I kept my focus on Serena. Funny thing, I said, loud enough for the surrounding tables to hear. I was feeling much better today. Thought I'd come celebrate with my loving wife. You can't be here, Serena whispered, finding her voice. You're supposed to be dead? I finished for her. Yeah, I heard about that. Fascinating news, considering I feel very much alive. Mandy appeared at my elbow, her wedding dress rustling as she moved. Dean, please, don't make a scene. This is my wedding day. Congratulations, by the way. Beautiful ceremony. Sorry I missed it, but apparently I was busy being dead. I turned back to Serena, who had gone from pale to bright red. Interesting choice, telling everyone I had a heart attack. Very creative. I can explain, Serena started, but I held up a hand. No need, I understand perfectly. Dead husband is much easier than divorced husband. No messy explanations about why you're suddenly single. No awkward questions about what went wrong. The woman who had been offering sympathy earlier looked confused. I don't understand. If you're not dead, then why did she say, because my wife has always been creative with the truth. It's one of her many talents. I smiled at Serena, who looked like she wanted to crawl under the table, along with spending other people's money and pretending to be something she's not. That's enough, Mandy snapped. Security. No need for security. I'm leaving. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. Serena, these are divorce papers. I thought you might want to sign them while you're surrounded by family. Make it official. I placed the papers on the table in front of her, next to her wine glass and the sympathy cards. Take your time. I know big decisions are hard for you. The entire reception hall was watching now. Phones had appeared, recording the drama for social media posterity. Serena's carefully constructed facade was crumbling in real time. You're humiliating me, she hissed through clenched teeth. I'm clarifying things, I corrected. There's a difference, although I can see how you might confuse the two, given your recent performance. I turned to address the room at large. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the interruption. Please continue celebrating. Marriage is a beautiful thing when both people are honest about it. The walk back to my car felt like the longest journey of my life, but I kept my head high and my pace steady. Behind me, I could hear the buzz of conversation resuming, voices raised in excitement and speculation. By tomorrow, the story would be all over town. Serena had wanted to be the center of attention. Mission accomplished. The divorce papers came back signed within 48 hours, along with a note written in Serena's careful handwriting. You got what you wanted. I hope you're happy. I wasn't happy, exactly. But I was something else. Focused. For the first time in years, I had a clear sense of purpose that didn't involve making someone else's life easier. My lawyer, Amanda Rodriguez, was a sharp woman in her 40s who specialized in messy divorces. She'd handled the paperwork with clinical efficiency, making sure I kept the house, my pension, and my dignity intact. Your wife didn't contest anything, Amanda told me during our final meeting. No alimony request, no property claims. She just wanted out as quickly as possible, probably embarrassed about the wedding thing. Amanda smiled. I heard about that. Half the town's talking about it. You certainly made an impression. Word travels fast in a city of 60,000 people, especially when it involves public humiliation at the country club. The story had grown in the telling, becoming more dramatic with each retelling. By some accounts, I delivered a 20-minute speech about marriage and betrayal. Others claimed Serena had fainted dead away when she saw me. The truth was simpler and somehow more satisfying. I'd shown up, told the truth, and left. Sometimes the best revenge is just refusing to disappear quietly. I was settling into my new routine as a divorced man when the first wave of consequences hit. It started with a phone call from my best friend Marcus. We need to talk, he said without preamble. Can you meet me at Murphy's tonight? Murphy's bar was our usual spot, a working-class dive with good beer and better burgers. Marcus was already there when I arrived, nursing a Budweiser and wearing the expression of a man about to deliver bad news. Let me guess, I said, sliding into the booth across from him. This is about Serena. She came to see Jennifer yesterday, crying, upset, the whole 9 yards. Marcus took a long drink of his beer. Says you humiliated her in front of her entire family. I told the truth. She told everyone I was dead. Yeah, I heard about that. Pretty messed up. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But Jennifer thinks maybe you went too far with the public confrontation thing. Jennifer was Marcus's wife, a social worker with strong opinions about conflict resolution. She'd never particularly liked me, though she'd tolerated me for Marcus's sake. What does Jennifer think I should have done? Stayed dead. She thinks you could have handled it privately. Talked to Serena away from the wedding. Worked things out like adults. I signaled the bartender for a beer before responding. Marcus, my wife told her entire family I was dead so she wouldn't have to admit we were getting divorced. She's been planning to leave me for months, maybe years, and never said a word. At what point was I supposed to have this adult conversation? I get it, man. I really do. But Jennifer's worried about how this reflects on us. There it was, the real reason for this conversation. How it reflects on you. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. Look, Jennifer's got that promotion coming up at the county office. Her boss was at the wedding, saw the whole thing. Now Jennifer's worried that being associated with the drama might hurt her chances. Associated with the drama. You mean associated with me? Don't make this harder than it has to be. I stared at my friend of 15 years, seeing him clearly for the first time. Marcus had always been the peacekeeper in our group, the one who smoothed over conflicts and kept everyone happy. But when push came to shove, he'd chosen his wife's career over our friendship. So what are you saying, Marcus? I'm saying maybe we should take a break from hanging out for a while. Let things cool down. Give Jennifer some space to handle her work situation. A break. I repeated the words, tasting their bitterness. Like Serena wanted a break. It's not the same thing, isn't it? You're cutting me out of your life because I'm embarrassing. Because being seen with me might hurt your wife's reputation. Marcus finished his beer and stood up. I'm sorry, Dean. I really am. But I have to think about my family first. He left a $10 bill on the table and walked away, leaving me alone with my thoughts and a growing understanding of how quickly a life could unravel. The pattern repeated itself over the next 2 weeks. Tom and Sarah, another couple we'd socialized with regularly, stopped returning my calls. Dave from my bowling league suddenly had scheduling conflicts every Thursday night. Even my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who'd been borrowing my lawnmower for 3 years, started avoiding eye contact when she saw me in the driveway. Serena had been busy, it seemed, playing the victim, telling her version of events, painting me as the unstable ex-husband who'd ruined her sister's wedding out of spite. And people were believing her, because her version was simpler and more dramatic than the truth. The truth was that I'd been abandoned by a wife who valued status over loyalty, and now I was being abandoned by friends who valued reputation over friendship. The truth was that I'd spent 15 years being invisible, and the moment I demanded to be seen, everyone had decided they preferred me gone. But here's the thing about being a cleaner. You learn that every mess can be dealt with if you have the right tools and enough patience. And I was discovering that I had both. Being invisible had always been my superpower, though I'd never thought of it that way until now. For 15 years, I'd moved through buildings and offices like a ghost, emptying trash cans and mopping floors while the important people conducted their important business around me. They talked on phones, held meetings, shared gossip and secrets, all while I cleaned up their messes. Now, for the first time, I was going to put that knowledge to use. My first stop was the Riverside Medical Center, where I'd been working the night shift for 8 years. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, Marcus's wife, worked there as a social worker in the pediatric wing. She was the one who'd convinced Marcus to cut me off, worried that my drama would hurt her promotion chances. What Jennifer didn't know was that I'd been emptying her office trash can twice a week for the past 3 years. I knew about her habit of printing personal emails and throwing them away. I knew about the prescription anxiety medication she kept hidden in her desk drawer. And I knew about the complaint that had been filed against her 6 months ago by a patient's family, alleging that she'd violated confidentiality protocols. The complaint had been quietly buried by her supervisor, Dr. Richard Hayes, who happened to be having an affair with Jennifer's best friend from college. I knew this because Dr. Hayes was careless with his phone conversations and had a habit of leaving incriminating text messages in his trash. It's amazing what people throw away, thinking no one will ever see it. I waited until Thursday evening, when Jennifer would be working late on her monthly reports. The pediatric wing was quiet after visiting hours, just the night staff and a few patients. I made my rounds normally, emptying trash cans and restocking supplies, invisible as always. Jennifer's office door was open, and she was hunched over her computer, typing furiously. She looked stressed, which made sense. The promotion she was hoping for would be announced next week, and the competition was fierce. "Evening, Dr. Walsh," I said, wheeling my cart into her office. She looked up, startled. "Oh, Dean, I didn't see you there." Most people don't. I began emptying her trash can, noting the crumpled drafts of her promotion application. "Working late again." "Just finishing up some paperwork." Her voice was tight, professional. She was trying to pretend our conversation at Murphy's bar had never happened. That's dedication. I'm sure Dr. Hayes appreciates employees who go the extra mile. Jennifer's typing stopped. "What do you mean?" "Nothing specific, just that he seems like the kind of supervisor who notices when people make sacrifices for their career." I moved to clean her bookshelf, positioning myself where I could see her computer screen. "Speaking of Dr. Hayes, how's his wife doing? I heard she was having some health issues." "I wouldn't know. We don't discuss personal matters at work." "Of course not. That would be unprofessional." I finished dusting and moved toward the door. "Well, I hope everything works out with your promotion. I'm sure your husband is proud of how hard you've worked for it." I left her sitting there, staring at her computer screen with a worried expression. The seed was planted. Now I just had to wait for it to grow. My next stop was the Riverside real estate office, where Jay Dalton worked. Jay was Serena's new boyfriend, though they thought they were being discreet about it. I'd discovered their relationship 3 weeks ago, when I'd seen his BMW parked outside our house while I was supposed to be at work. A quick check of his social media had confirmed what I'd suspected. He was the real reason Serena wanted a divorce. Jay was everything I wasn't. Tall, handsome, successful, and completely full of himself. His Instagram feed was a monument to his own ego, filled with photos of expensive cars, exotic vacations, and attractive women. He was the kind of man who wore cologne to the gym and tipped badly at restaurants. He was also careless about his business practices, which I'd learned during my years cleaning his office building. Jay had a habit of staying late to make personal calls, thinking the cleaning crew couldn't hear him through his office door. Over the past 2 years, I'd overheard conversations about inflated property appraisals, kickbacks from contractors, and at least one deal that involved selling a house with undisclosed water damage. The real estate industry was built on reputation and trust. One well-placed rumor could destroy years of careful networking. I found Jay's business card in my wallet, left over from a company party Serena had dragged me to last year. His direct phone number was printed in gold letters beneath his smiling headshot. Jay Dalton, Riverside Realty. "This is Jay. Mr. Dalton, this is Bill Thompson from the State Real Estate Commission. We've received some concerns about properties you've listed in the Oakwood subdivision." There was a pause. "I'm sorry, what kind of concerns?" "Allegations of undisclosed water damage and inflated appraisals. We're conducting a preliminary investigation and would like to schedule an interview." "I think there's been some mistake. I've never..." The interview is voluntary at this point, Mr. Dalton. But I'd recommend you contact your attorney before we speak. We'll be in touch. I hung up before he could respond. It wasn't illegal to make a phone call, even a misleading one. And by the time Jay figured out that no investigation was actually underway, the damage would be done. He'd spend the next week in a panic, probably alienating clients and colleagues with his paranoid behavior. Sometimes the best revenge is just letting people destroy themselves. The beauty of psychological warfare is that it requires no physical violence, leaves no evidence, and works entirely through the target's own imagination. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched my carefully laid plans unfold with the satisfaction of a chess master moving pieces into position. Jennifer Walsh was the first to crack. The stress of wondering what I knew about her relationship with Dr. Hayes, combined with the pressure of her upcoming promotion review, had turned her into a nervous wreck. Marcus called me on a Tuesday night, his voice strained and desperate. "We need to talk," he said. "Jennifer thinks you're stalking her." "Stalking her? That's a serious accusation. She says you've been asking questions about her at work, making comments about her supervisor. She's scared, Dean." I almost laughed. Jennifer Walsh was scared of me, the invisible janitor she'd dismissed as beneath her notice. "I clean her office twice a week, Marcus, same as I have for 3 years. If she's uncomfortable with that, she can request a different cleaner." "It's not about cleaning. She thinks you're trying to sabotage her promotion." "Why would I do that?" "Because she told me to stay away from you, because you blame her for our friendship ending." There was truth in that, though not the way Marcus meant it. I did blame Jennifer, but not for ending our friendship. I blamed her for showing me what kind of friend Marcus really was. "Marcus, I want you to listen to me carefully. I have never threatened your wife. I have never followed her or contacted her outside of work. If she's feeling paranoid, maybe she should ask herself why." What's that supposed to mean?" "It means people who have nothing to hide don't usually worry about being investigated." I hung up before he could respond. Let him chew on that for a while. Jay Dalton was having his own problems. My fake phone call about a state investigation had sent him into a spiral of damage control that was actually creating real damage. He'd started calling clients to clarify details about properties he'd sold, raising suspicions where none had existed before. He'd also hired an expensive attorney and filed complaints with the Real Estate Commission about harassment, creating an official paper trail that invited the very scrutiny he was trying to avoid. But the real masterpiece was what was happening between Jay and Serena. I'd learned about their relationship dynamic by watching them together at restaurants and coffee shops around town. Jay was the kind of man who needed constant validation, and Serena was happy to provide it as long as he kept paying for expensive dinners and weekend trips. But stress made Jay needy and paranoid, and needy men were exhausting to be around. Their relationship was already showing cracks when I decided to widen them. Serena had always been active on social media, posting carefully curated photos of her life and writing. Since our divorce, her posts had become more frequent and more desperate, each one a cry for attention and sympathy. She was still playing the victim, still telling anyone who would listen about her cruel ex-husband who had humiliated her at her sister's wedding. What she didn't know was that I'd been documenting her activities for weeks. Photos of her and Jay together at expensive restaurants. Screenshots of her social media posts about being a struggling artist while showing off designer handbags and jewelry. Evidence of the lifestyle she was living while claiming to be financially devastated by our divorce. I created an anonymous email account and sent a carefully crafted message to the administrator of the local Facebook group where Serena had been sharing her sob story. I thought the group should know that Serena Carter has been lying about her situation. She's not a struggling single woman. She's been living with her wealthy boyfriend for months while claiming to be homeless and broke. I've attached photos showing her real lifestyle. Maybe her sympathy donations should go to someone who actually needs help. The photos spoke for themselves. Serena at a 5-star restaurant, wearing a dress that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Serena and Jay on a weekend trip to Napa Valley, staying at a resort that charged $800 a night. Serena showing off her new BMW, a gift from her generous boyfriend. The Facebook group exploded. Comments poured in from people who felt betrayed and manipulated. Several members demanded refunds of the money they donated to help Serena get back on her feet. The group administrator removed Serena from the membership and posted a warning about donation scams. Within hours, the story had spread to other local social media groups. Serena's carefully constructed image as a wronged woman was crumbling in real time, replaced by a new narrative. She was a liar and a fraud who had manipulated people's sympathy for financial gain. Jay, already stressed about his business problems, didn't take the social media scandal well. According to mutual acquaintances, he'd accused Serena of being careless and drawing unwanted attention to their relationship. She'd accused him of being paranoid and controlling. Their fairy tale romance was turning into a nightmare of mutual recrimination and blame. I watched it all unfold from my comfortable distance, feeling a satisfaction I hadn't experienced in years. These people had written me off as insignificant, someone whose feelings and dignity didn't matter. They were learning that invisible didn't mean powerless, but I wasn't finished yet. The best was still to come. The Riverside Community Center's annual charity auction was the social event of the year, where the town's elite gathered to bid on donated items while congratulating themselves on their generosity. Tickets cost $200 each, ensuring that only the right sort of people attended. I'd never been to the auction before. It wasn't the kind of event that included commercial cleaners, but this year was different. This year, I had a purpose. I bought my ticket online, using money from the savings account Serena had never known about. For 15 years, I'd been setting aside small amounts from my overtime pay, building a nest egg for emergencies. Apparently, revenge qualified as an emergency. The auction was held in the center's main ballroom, decorated with flowers and white tablecloths that would need serious cleaning afterward. I recognized most of the attendees: doctors, lawyers, business owners, and their carefully dressed wives, the kind of people who looked through me when I emptied their trash cans. Serena and Jay were there, of course, sitting at a table near the front with Mandy and her developer husband. Serena wore a red dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, and Jay had his arm around her in a possessive gesture that screamed insecurity. They were trying to project an image of success and happiness, but I could see the cracks in their performance. Jennifer and Marcus were at a table across the room, along with Dr. Hayes and several other hospital staff members. Jennifer kept glancing around nervously, as if expecting something terrible to happen. Which, in a way, she was right to do. I found a seat at a table in the back, next to a retired teacher named Mrs. Henderson, who recognized me from the neighborhood. She was delighted to have someone to chat with about local gossip, which gave me the perfect cover for my real purpose: observation. The auction proceeded normally for the first hour. Vacation packages, restaurant gift certificates, and artwork were sold to the highest bidders, while wine flowed and conversations buzzed. I watched and waited, biding my time. My moment came when the auctioneer announced a special item: a weekend getaway package to a luxury resort in the mountains, donated by Dalton Realty. Jay stood up to acknowledge the applause, his chest puffed with pride at the recognition. That's when I made my move. I stood up and raised my hand. "I'd like to ask a question about the donor before we start bidding." The auctioneer looked confused. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't typically. I think people should know that Mr. Dalton is currently under investigation by the State Real Estate Commission for fraudulent business practices." The room went dead silent. All eyes turned to Jay, who had gone pale. "That's not true," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "Isn't it? Then why did you hire attorney Robert Klein to represent you in dealings with state investigators?" Jay's mouth opened and closed like a fish. He had indeed hired Klein, though not because of any real investigation. His paranoid response to my fake phone call had led him to seek legal counsel, which I'd learned about through my network of cleaning staff who worked in Klein's office building. "Furthermore," I continued, standing so my voice would carry throughout the room, "I think people should know that the generous Mr. Dalton has been having an affair with my ex-wife while she was still married to me." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. Serena shot to her feet, her face bright red. "That's a lie." "Is it? Then explain these photos." I pulled out a manila envelope and began distributing copies of the surveillance photos I'd taken over the past month. Jay and Serena entering hotels together. Jay's car parked outside my house while I was at work. The two of them kissing in the parking lot of an expensive restaurant. "You've been stalking us," Jay accused, but his voice lacked conviction. "I've been documenting adultery. There's a difference." I turned to address the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for disrupting your evening, but I thought you should know who you're supporting with your charitable donations." The auctioneer was frantically trying to restore order, but the damage was done. Conversations erupted at every table as people examined the photos and shared their own gossip about Jay and Serena. Cell phones appeared as the scandal was documented and shared in real time. Jennifer Walsh chose that moment to have what appeared to be a complete nervous breakdown. She stood up suddenly, knocking over her wine glass, and began shouting at me across the room. "This is all your fault. You've been harassing me for weeks, making my life miserable because your pathetic marriage fell apart." Dr. Hayes tried to calm her down, but Jennifer was beyond reason. "He knows about us," she screamed. "He knows about the complaint and the cover-up and everything." Line B. The room fell silent again as people processed this new revelation. Dr. Hayes looked like he wanted to disappear, while his wife stared at him with dawning horror. Marcus sat frozen, finally understanding the kind of woman he'd chosen over our friendship. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said calmly, "but it sounds like you have some personal issues to work through." Jennifer lunged toward me, but Marcus caught her arm. "You bastard," she shrieked. "You think you're so smart, but you're nothing. You're a janitor, a nobody." "You're right," I agreed. "I am a janitor. I clean up other people's messes for a living. And tonight, I cleaned up mine." Security guards appeared to escort Jennifer out, while Dr. Hayes followed behind, trying to salvage what remained of his reputation. The auction was officially over, though the real entertainment was just beginning as the gossip networks kicked into high gear. Serena and Jay made their own hasty exit, but not before I heard Jay hissing at her about bringing this drama into his life. Their relationship wouldn't survive the night, let alone the social media storm that was already brewing. Nime, Deist. I stayed until